too bright, wait to wake until it's night. It's not fair, it's not right. There is a truth we all know, right from wrong, it can show you.
Joy, it's good to see you.
Hey, Mike. Good to see you too.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hope, Resilience, in Action, where we take and highlight people who have been through heck and have found various ways through, hopefully to the benefit of anyone who has the chance to listen to this. So, I'm gonna, Joy is very humble. Okay, Joy, that's fair to say. You're humble. My nickname for Joy for the last what's it been, like 20 years or something? It feels like it's been a long time.
Since I first wandered in your office as a confused private.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Been a minute.
So, long story short, Joy is a hero in every possible descriptor of it. We had the chance. I feel blessed to have served with you. You know, you're actually the only person I think I'm going to have on here that I served directly with. And I'm not going to tell your story, but I am going to tell the entire world that, you know, when you need an example of courage, that Joy, who sits in front of you, is an example of rock solid courage. And too many times in like the veterans TV shows, and I'm not knocking the bearded black label coffee veteran, but we forget
I love those guys.
Yeah, me too. But we forget the other ones, like the old retired business guys and the heroes out there who don't have beards. So Joy is currently a clinical doctoral candidate in occupational therapy at Drake University. And
That's right.
5 classes left?
5 semesters.
5 semesters. And
2 didactic, so 2 in the classroom, and then it's field work. If I can survive the next 2 classroom semesters, I'll be all right.
I feel like that word is like a Star Trek word you just made up, didactic, huh? Okay.
Lecture, so sitting in the classroom with teachers, like, here's all the information we're going to lecture.
Got it.
And then it's all hands-on after that.
So is it hard? Like, legit? Like, you've been through some hard stuff. Is it hard?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's doctoral level classes, and I'm going to be 43 here very soon, and the majority of my classmates were not yet born when 9/11 happened. So there's like, they're just getting ramped up when it's my bedtime.
Well, what I can't wait to do is, I
a
don't
big
know,
part of it.
I've been calling you Doc for years because you have earned that title. You're a doc. So for those of you who don't know,
Thank you.
I don't know about all the services, but in the Army, our medics are doc. I think in the Marines, the corpsmen are like corpsmen, right? But for us, it's doc. Just doc.
I've heard him use doc too. When I was at the ISR, a lot of the Marines used to. That's when I first was called doc. Was by a couple of the Marines I worked with in the burn center.
That makes sense. Less syllables. I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, it's easier. They're nice and round. It's easy to make with crayons.
So
no, I love those guys. I really do.
But you're about to be Dr. Doc. That's going to be really weird. Like, it sounds like a rap song from the 80s when I call you. So it'll be interesting.
I should put it on a t-shirt.
Dr. Doc.
Yep, get a coffee mug or something.
So about to be a PhD, or I'm sorry, a clinical doctoral degree holder.
That's correct.
And you'll smoke it like you have everything else.
Thank you. I hope so.
Well, yeah, but you are like a model for somebody who goes through some trauma. And I'm not going to tell your story for you, but I think our audience today is going to be pretty eye-open, what you've been through and where you are now. And in the interim, coming up with solutions to assist, people in difficult financial situations with orthotic solutions is something that I think that was just a kind of a little side thing for you. So you've got a life dedicated to making people better. And that started as a combat medic. No, I think you were a darn for me. So you were helping me re-enlist soldiers. It's good because
for a little bit.
Yeah.
See, I first met you when I was just a little baby private.
And I was sitting in Bob Mayhew's office,
Yes.
who still
Yes.
rocks. That guy, have you seen
Have you
his?
se-
Yeah.
Have you seen the beard and the hair he's
Yeah.
rocking lately?
Oh yeah, I love his fish
Oh,
commercials, man.
yes.
So he like drives cross
Yes. They are
country,
fantastic.
he picks up fish
Yep.
and brings them home and slings fish.
Yep.
Bob was always
Shellfish and regular fish, oysters. He runs the farmer's market. I think he's got a brick and mortar place now, too.
I think he does. And he was the funny guy who smoked cigarettes and would like go out there and do like Olympic rings while smoking a cigarette out.
Yes. Hanging from his mouth, and he is running circles around everybody.
He was a hardcore soldier for sure.
He was also the guy who would stay 4 or 5 hours after quitting time to talk to somebody who was struggling, or come in early, or, lend you a car so you could go pick your kid up safely.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I met you
Yes.
and that was a very formative time in my life. I was just coming into like grown-uphood for the first time, really. And I met like the John Browers and the Bob Mayhews of the world, and they changed like my perspective on what the Army values were. And all of a sudden
Yes.
it became much more real when I met those guys. So we met
Yes.
in a really awesome place. And if you don't mind, Joy, and I'm going to shut up, but would you mind telling the world your story, and as much as you want to tell of it, but because you had something come and change it.
There were some directions that changed a little bit. Yeah. I enlisted after not doing so good after high school. Turns out I learned that it doesn't matter how smart you are or whether you graduate high school, a couple years early at 16. If you want to pay the bills, you got to have a job. If you want to have a job, you actually have to show up to work. College is great, but you got to go to class in order to and do your homework in order to get passing grades, or you end up safe words, very deeply in debt, and in a little bit of trouble. Like, stuff is a lot more real, and it gets real very, very quickly. And I found myself after 3 years of not succeeding at everything I put my hands to, with not a lot of options. So now retired Sergeant Major Alba pulled me out of that and got me enlisted in as a medic, and shipped off very, very quickly, like less than 2-week turnaround time, which is probably for the best.
That's quick.
Yeah, probably for the best.
People sit for a year sometimes. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, it's all good. I think there's a very strong chance I would have chickened out, but I didn't have enough time to quit fighting with my parents about it before I shipped out. So
good.
It was good.
Good job, Army. We got her on the rebellious swing. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. You caught me at the right time. No, so I ended up picking up 2 MOSs, 68 whiskey as a medic. That's the nomenclature now. 68 Lima used to be a November 3 ASI as occupational therapy assistant, and served a lot of roles as both. Did some neat assignments, went to Germany, went down to Honduras, spent some time on a joint exercise on the USNS Comfort, learning how the Navy works. And that was a global medic. It was just an exercise, but it was neat to see all the pieces moving together. And then dealt with some interesting family dynamics, trying to balance out family, getting into a family, changes of command that went interesting. On and off of ADT orders, trying to get into an AGR position, and then finally got my chance to deploy in 2009. Was transferred to a different battalion. Ended up with the 467th Combat Stress Control, the COS out of Madison, Wisconsin. And we and our sister unit in November of that year were down at Fort Hood to go through SRP. Our sister unit was going to Iraq. They were going to relieve the 55th. They had just had the shooting down there at the med clinic. at the behavioral health clinic. So they were going to relieve those guys, and we were going to go set up operations in Afghanistan. They didn't have behavioral health down there. And, as we all know, that's when the shooting on 5 November happened in the SRP Center. Nadel Hassan chose his ideology over his oath and opened fire on us while we were going through SRP. Between our two units, we lost 5 killed between the 928th and the 467th, and 8 of the 32 wounded came from us. So that was a pretty big hit, especially with us being 3 weeks away from leaving country. I was incredibly lucky. I was sitting right in front of the main medical section, ready to go through med check section 13 when he opened up, and my cover was a couple knocked over and broken folding chairs. The 3 people within immediate hands reach of me, 2 of them mine, all perished. And I made it out with just an injury to my arm. So very, very lucky, incredibly lucky with that. So that took some time to heal and recover. I was on med hold for about 2 years. I was part of the Warrior Transition Unit based out of Rock Island Arsenal. So as I was a reservist that had been mobilized, I was allowed to become part of the community-based Warrior Transition Unit, which is just a great program because I got to go home. I got to go be with my family, do my medical care on the community, and then report to a federal facility for duty. And I was allowed to go to school full time because what they had for me to do was to sit next to a phone that didn't ring. And after 3 days, I was like, I'm going to lose my damn mind. So they allowed me to enroll as a full-time student, provided that don't knock your hearing aids out, people. Provided that I gave priority to my medical attention. And so I was able to finish up my undergraduate degree.
And when you say
while healing from that.
And when you say just a wound in your arm, because I had the chance to talk with you a lot during recovery, that took, well, it's still not right to this day. I mean,
it's better than it's been.
I mean,
it's stable now.
And but your arm, I mean, that was a persistent injury for a long time. That wasn't something little.
Yeah. I was hit once by one round. It shattered the radius bone in my arm, and about a 2-inch gap between the edges that took 2 bone grafts to fix. Did concussive damage to all 3 nerves. I lost a lot of muscle structure, and it shredded the ulnar artery. They had to graft it into the radial artery in 2 places. So up near, just above my elbow, and then back down at my wrist in order to maintain proper blood flow to the hand.
People
15 surgeries, and now it's pretty stable. It's been 2.5 years since the last one, and then that's good. We finally got the bit of nerve that was bound up too much. So I got some numbness, I got some pain, I got some issues, but it's tolerable. I can function pretty well, so I'm pretty happy with that as an outcome.
So that horror can't possibly be described. I feel like it's unfair. In my combat service, when you suit up and you hit the road, you're on the road, you've fired your warning shots, you're orienting your weapons appropriate ways, like you're out there, you're loaded up, and that's what the mindset is, that I'm at war. And I know the only intrusive things I felt that were, like, one day I was playing video games with my buddy Jared, and a rocket hit. Like, I was 2 shelters over from us, 2 chews over. These were not armored shelters that we were in. They're just tents and stuff. And that feeling of helplessness where I can't do anything about a rocket. Like, we crawled under our cots. and they're, cots, and then the army cots, they're not protecting you from like a heavy person on top of you, like much less anything. And we're looking at each other under our cots and we're like, oh man, I am helpless. And I've always imagined over the years that vulnerable position that your unit was caught in. I can't imagine. That's just not what you're there for. You're there for a exceedingly boring day of hurry up and wait. And
Yep. And that's where everybody's mindset was. A lot of people, myself included, didn't realize what was happening even at first. I mean, you hear the gunshots. I mean, he was maybe 20 feet away from me when he opened fire, but I still didn't really register what was going on. I had been sitting in that damn chair for an hour and a half already, and I had a solid hour and a half to go. You know how those lines go.
oh yeah, no.
So,
For
I
our
mean,
our civilian counterparts, it's like the DMV, but for weeks. Just like,
yeah, and more jam packed. And no, I mean, first thought is someone's watching a movie. Second thought is oh, this is a drill. This is a training exercise. I mean, my unit was a COSC unit, combat operational stress control. We were going over there for behavioral health because it was needed in country. It was definitely, desperately needed in country. There's a lot that shows that there's greater outcomes if you can provide immediate intervention in the least restrictive environment. So when stuff goes wrong, when stuff happens, do skilled debriefings, get a couple counseling sessions in, teach people how to self-regulate and manage their own mental health so they can recognize when things are getting a little bit too much. And there's no shame in knowing that and being able to go like, you know what, I need to take a step back and take a couple deep breaths. I need 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes and I'll be fine. Sometimes you're stuck in a situation where you have to gut it out. And yeah, that's great skill to have, but you don't have to do that for years. Do it until you have space and then process it. And that's what our job was to go in and teach those skills and manage the behavioral health on the ground, keep the troops in theater. So that reduces costs, it reduces turnover, it increases safety, it increases health, it protects those troops from an increased risk of developing some of these issues later on down the line, because it teaches those skills before they're needed. So you have them when they are needed. That was our job. So we had already done in training before you even hit Fort Hood, several types of drills where, someone would role play someone going off or just having a bad day, or, what do you do if, how do you handle this? And, what made it real for me was I had been a medic for a long time, and most of the positions I had been in the Army were not on the behavioral health side. Now, for occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants in the Army, behavioral health is our combat mission and our wartime mission, right? And our peacetime mission, our stateside mission is your orthopedics and your TBIs and your prosthetics and all that other stuff. So that's what I had done. And most of my experience with hands-on was in a burn center with wounds, with ortho, with trauma, and working out of an OR or an ICU. So there's certain ways things smell and feel and look when they're real versus when it's moulage, when it's cosmetic, when it's fake. And that's what really got me. It wasn't the smell of gunpowder or the screaming or the yelling or even the haze in the room. It was, I could taste the smell of the blood in the back of my throat. And that's what made it real. It was like, oh, damn. Okay. This is not just an exercise. And then that's when Colonel Warman, she had pulled me to the ground, knocked me out of the chair when everything first started, and 100% saved my life doing that. She got hit in the back. She was facing me. I was facing her. I was facing the shooter. Her back was to the shooter. And then she went to try to push up. I snaked my arm over her back to hold her down and try to find the entry wound. And in doing so, I moved my head down a little bit. Something whizzed right through my hair. Captain Seeger, one of my officers, he had been directly behind me. He had his hand in my back because he had been sitting on my right-hand side in the chairs. He went limp. When I had a chance to kind of roll my head over and look, he had taken one to the head. He passed. Colonel Warman ultimately passed. There's wasn't anything to do. But it was the smell and the taste that made it real more than anything else, and that changed things very quickly.
I, I I've tried to empathize over the years. I can't put myself there. I can't imagine it, and I don't think the human mind is really supposed to be able to imagine that. I don't think it is. That's that's as horrific of a scene as there can be, and
I
um,
can quote H.P. Lovecraft as saying, "One of the greatest mercies in the universe is the inability of the human mind to correlate its contents." He's a horror author from the 1920s, and I feel that so much a lot of times.
and there
Is
was
we have our own self-protective mechanisms built in, but those only work to a point.
yeah, and there was some heroics that day too, right? There were some people
Oh
that
yeah, I saw lots of people come together. There was a lot.
I think if the rumors that reached me were true, that there were people actively performing life-saving measures while the shooting itself was still taking place,
Yes.
um, which again, in your general civilian audience, you won't tend to see, but in a unit full of military medical folks, it makes sense that their default reaction would be to provide care.
Given the size of the room, you consider the whole incident lasted for about 10 minutes. It was either the longest 10 minutes of my life or the shortest 3 hours of my life, because it was 10 minutes that I swear to God, and I said this under oath, lasted hours. Um, we were packed in like fish in a barrel. It was right after lunch. Everyone had just come back and sat back down in their places. And he managed to shoot 45 people, and we only lost 13. Like, think about that for a minute. We're packed together, shoulder to shoulder. There was mass confusion. Back door was locked. He had full control where he placed himself before he opened up over all entrances and exits to that building. And we only lost 13. And that's because of the actions that people took to prevent more death.
So that most of us in our lives won't. I mean, I'm a combat vet. I haven't I haven't seen a scene like that. I haven't had to deal with a scene like that. I don't think you can truly empathize with a situation like that, not having been in one. And I don't want to skip too way far ahead, but I remember later in your career when you would go and teach survival in situations like that and the expectations of situations like that. Which
Yeah, after the trial concluded, I was asked to conduct a mass shooting training at my originating reserve unit, the 7456th, and it went very, very, very well. I got a lot of other, was able to pull in local law enforcement, Polk County Sheriff's Department, coordinate with dispatch. So if anyone did panic and call 911, they would know. Had a couple officers out on scene with radios, so they were able to override a not actual call, and also able to put through if there was an issue, because we've got the police academy right up the street. Had assistance from the Marines and the Navy building on post. They came over. We took care with individuals who were struggling already with their mental health and weren't going to be able to walk away from the intensity of the activity I planned with their health intact, and made sure they knew what was going to happen. And we put them in places where they could participate in the logistical portion of it, but not in the active shooting
right.
portion of it. And we brought in a shooter with an M16 with blanks to make it as real as possible. He had a safety escort. We did everything we could to ensure his safety, made sure he wasn't someone from the unit, so he wasn't recognized. It's impossible to set something like that up without people knowing that something was going to happen. But we had people pre-moulage for casualties. So as soon as everything started, there were casualties scattered across the building. And then we tested everybody's ability to to react, to process, to take accountability afterwards, get clearance. What do you do when you get clearance from law enforcement to go in and, take care of people who are down? How do you triage? I mean, we made it both a response and an accountability and a medical mass cal exercises. It went off well, really well. And then I was asked to do several more throughout the I think I did 7 total after that. Mostly going into just kind of help observe and debrief, but a couple I also helped with the planning on.
And do you mind if I shame the Army real quick before we move on to the next thing that we do? I want to put this on record if you don't mind.
I mean, that depends.
I'll delete it if you tell me it's okay to delete it. But I want to shame the Army because this Master Sergeant, now retired, Joy, I had the chance to assist with your retirement award after it had been declined before. But you get people that leave the military at a certain rank and they just get a Legion of Merit. It's kind of a standard, you were a nominative person award. You were a person, and I know certain people will watch this, and Joy absolutely deserves the Legion of Merit for her service, because not only did you go through what you went through, and then all the dark stuff that we'll talk about to follow, but you turned that around to a point where you were doing everything in your power, even at the end, to prevent future events like that. And we heard just rave reviews about the training you gave and the realism involved in it. And you dedicated yourself to doing something which absolutely could not have been easy anyways, having to somewhat relive those things. And you did that out of the kindness of your heart to take care of soldiers. To this day, Army, if you're listening, it's a serious shame that this Master Sergeant was downgraded her retirement award. Okay, sorry. If you don't mind, I'll delete that if you want me to. But the Army has a bad tradition, and now I'm retired, I get to say it. Sometimes we appreciate rank over action. And in certain cases, I hope all leaders out there remember, don't just take rank into consideration when you're talking about awards for service from people who have really put it on the line. Okay, that's the end of that. Sorry, Joy.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
That's a passion of mine. And it's not just you. It's other people that I know who, there's a good sergeant first class. I didn't get his consent to say his name, so I'm not going to say his name, but a good sergeant first class who most of our AGR people will have served with or around. He was a 42 series, an admin guy. And I was in his unit for a little while, and then for a decade afterwards, if I had a soldier who had serious problems in their paperwork or records and nobody could fix them, I would call this E7. And this E7, it could be like 4 a.m. on a Saturday. And if I called this E7, oh, yes, our major, I'll take care of that. Hey, have the soldier give me a call. Now, he's not even in the same command. And he saved people's careers. He got people to retire before age 60, who the Army was saying couldn't retire before age 60. Always put it on the line, always went the extra mile. And I kind of had the same losing effort to get him recognized with an appropriate award upon his retirement. But hey, next generation leaders, it's on you guys. Okay.
Do right by your troops. There's nothing more demoralizing than, for a leader, there's nothing more demoralizing than to see a troop who truly, truly deserves accolades and recognition to get shit on.
Yep.
I'm not going to apologize for my language.
Nope. I'm going to keep that in there.
There is nothing worse, because you can, no matter how much you want to live the Army values, which are fantastic, or live up to the NCO creed, which I think a lot more people need to pay attention to the wording on. And you talk about selfless service, but everybody needs to hear good job. Everybody needs to hear that their effort matters. Even if they didn't do it for the accolade, even if they did it just because it was the right thing, you still need to hear that it matters. And there is nothing worse than having someone else take credit and get awarded for your work. Really, the only thing worse is to be told that, well, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not the right rank, you don't have the right MOS, you haven't been in long enough to make an impact. Shit, I think awards need to be rewarded, inversely with rank.
Yeah.
A private should be held to a lower standard to receive a higher award, because they're not expected to pull the same weight as a sergeant major. You think a sergeant major needs to do some pretty freaking awesome backflips in order to get a routine run-of-the-mill award. Whereas for a private who has no idea what they're doing to show some outstanding initiative when they haven't been taught how anything works, hell yes, slap an award on that. Tell them they did a good job. Show them somebody's watching and somebody gives a shit, because you know what? It may be the first time in their life somebody has cared enough to say good job. And we lose troops that way. That's how we lose troops to retention. That's how we lose troops to drugs and alcohol. That's how we lose troops to suicide or bad conduct, is because it's just one more person shitting in their face when they have done everything they could to do their best.
Amen. And sorry we took us off on that sidebar, but it was my intent to bring that up. And if the right person is listening, you can always do the right thing all these years later. Anyways, so Joy, so going back now to, and I had to give us some levity because I don't want the audience to, anybody listening right now is probably like, what do you do next? And in your case, completely your story, but you know, the goal of this podcast is to recognize the weakness that can exist after extraordinary circumstances and how bad it can get. So would you mind kind of telling us, some of the rough stuff afterwards, if you don't mind?
No, it's okay. I came off of Med-Hold in 2011, returned, was drilling with the 467th. My daughter was born in May of 2012. So I now have a 13-year-old in the house. God help me, please send help. I have a teenager. No, that kid is great. I am so damn proud of that kiddo.
They've always been special, like your whole life.
Oh, yeah. God, amazing. They're going to do amazing things. I'm fully confident of that. 2013, that was the year that stuff went really sideways. I got mobilized out to Fort Lewis in Seattle, Washington. But that was the year Congress didn't pass the budget and the government shut down. While I was en route, I had my not quite 1-year-old daughter, my husband packed up in the car, our house on the market. We sold a bunch of our stuff and we were heading across country, landed in Seattle, and to find out my orders had been rescinded while I was in transit. So I had nothing. Managed to find a job. Luckily, because I had the OTA MOS, the November 3, I was licensed to work as a code on the civilian sector. So managed to go through a staffing agency, find a job, but that was down in San Antonio, Texas. So we went from Des Moines, Iowa to Seattle, Washington, crashed for a couple of days, then went down to San Antonio, Texas, and attempted to put our lives together. Was there for 4 months maybe. And right about the time that the trial for the Fort Hood shooting was starting. So I was going through pretrial briefings, meetings with the defense, the prosecution. That meant going over and over my sworn statement, practicing answering questions that could be thrown at me from the defense lawyers. I got recalled back to Des Moines. Sometimes when you're in a unit, you know, everybody listening, all the veterans will know this. You can get permission to live outside of a certain radius. And then sometimes you can be doing all the right thing, and then somebody goes and fucks it up for everybody. And so I got recalled back to the Des Moines area. So right in the middle of all of that, after having just taken a new job, pack the whole family back up again and move again. So pulling a lot of strings to get deposit on our apartment back. I had just paid moving trucks, so now we're paying them again, trying to find housing again. Then the trial. In the midst of all of this, like, didn't even really have anywhere to put our feet yet. You know, go down and testify at the trial, and that was a long week. That was a very long week. And then I came back to do that mass cal exercise. That's when that happened. Is that hit right after the trial finished. I also did restarted my medical skills at the MSTC up in Wisconsin, and that's kind of when everything hit me. I had been dealing pretty well with everything. I thought I had my sleep was decent. Yeah, there were some days that were harder than others, and I had done a little bit of counseling, but um, I had a pretty good hold on everything. I had a support system in place. Things were going all right. Wasn't showing any of your classic signs, didn't have a lot of anxiety, was able to go to the range just fine, had qualified with my weapon, no problem, had restarted medical skills, no problem. And then I don't know what it was. I think it was just everything coming together, sitting through the trial, having to sit and look his son in the face and face the possibility of having to answer his questions because he was representing himself. Unfortunately, he didn't ask any, so I was spared that. But that week while I was up at the Mystic Restart, stuff just went south all at once. Like it happened in the middle of the testing lane. The shake started, and you think it's adrenaline from going through stuff, and they just wouldn't stop, and they wouldn't stop. And then my sleep started to go, my temper went. Things got pretty bad for a while. And I did not know how to ask for help. So I did not. I tried to white knuckle my way through it. I tried to, Josh, God bless that man. That's my husband. He is a rock. He held things together, but he didn't know really what was going on because I didn't know how to tell him. He knew there was something, and he held everything together. He was there for me. He gave me everything I asked for, but I didn't know how to tell him what I needed. And stuff got pretty dark, but then I was able to get some of the help I needed, fortunately, and got on some meds and got on some counseling and was able to bounce back. It was a struggle because I had been, in thinking I was dealing with stuff on my own, I had been not dealing with it for 4 years. So I had years and years of that, plus some earlier traumas that hadn't been properly dealt with, or even really acknowledged, because that's kind of the funny thing is sometimes we don't acknowledge that something is traumatic because we just can't deal with it. If we admit that something was traumatic, then we have to admit that something bad happened to us, and sometimes that's more than our brains can take. So that's really the hardest part, is admitting that something was really, really bad and that it's okay to break down. Breaking down doesn't mean you're broken. Breaking down just means this is too big to handle, and that's okay. Stuff is big. But after, kind of getting that back together, kind of getting myself put back together, thought I was doing pretty well. The shooting trainings were not helpful. I put a lot of myself into it because I thought it would be a good way to purge everything. And
you were protecting
know
people.
that
I mean, you were protecting people too, even when it
if
wasn't
I
the
had
right thing for
really
you.
wanted to and had let somebody know how much it was affecting me, I could have said no,
Right.
that it's harmful to my health. But I also know that that would have been the end of my career at the time. So I didn't. And in 2015, we were awarded Purple Hearts for the shooting. And that I had a hard time with. I had a really hard time with. Not because it was a really lived experience, because they did a lot to alleviate that. Not even going back down to Hood, although that was difficult. It was less difficult than going down there for the trial. It was great to see people I hadn't seen in years, but what really bothered me about it was it didn't feel real. because of the way it came about. That the year prior, in the months prior to that, the requirements to earn a Purple Heart were changed by Congress in order to make us eligible, because the Department of Defense and the presidency did not, and still has not, acknowledged that the shooting was an act of terrorism. Despite the statements of the shooter at the time, despite the statements he made during his trial, despite the evidence that came out during the investigation, and despite his intent, which was to prevent us from deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan, specifically, no one declared it an act of terrorism. A lot of people said the words. Congressmen said the words. The congressman who pushed for our Purple Hearts said the words, but instead of filing legislation to declare it an act of terrorism, they filed legislation to change the requirements to earn a Purple Heart. And I have a big problem with that. Like, I really have a problem with that. It was fine the way it was. There was ample precedent. The folks who were injured in the Pentagon attacks, in the 9/11 attacks at the Trade Towers, they were awarded Purple Hearts because it was a terrorist attack. Doesn't matter where it happens, a terrorist attack on our soil. And that's exactly what happened down at Hood. So the precedent was already set. They didn't need to touch it. They just had to acknowledge it. But that's not how election year politics go. And while I am grateful for the acts of the senators and the House representatives, the members of the Armed Forces Committee, who advocated to get us the benefits that we had earned, and it has been life-changing in a lot of ways, for myself and for others. I feel that by changing the requirements to earn a Purple Heart, they cheapened it. It's not real, if that makes any sense. And this is not a popular opinion, and I wouldn't be surprised if you caught some flack for airing this, so you can feel free to edit it out. But it makes it not flack. Right, because it means it wasn't earned. It was given. We had qualified for it under the standards that were there, but they made it a gimme and made it a political event. And I have a real problem with that. And that really spiraled things out of control for me. I couldn't reconcile that. And things got really bad. I quit showing up to drill. I quit answering my phone. I quit going to work. I struggled to take care of my family. I struggled to take care of myself. And I ended up command referred to the STAR program in Kansas City, which I'm sorry to say is no longer operational. But it was an inpatient treatment program for PTSD and substance abuse for veterans and first responders. I say veterans, military members, either whether currently serving or veterans, and first responders. A 4-week inpatient program with intensive therapy, stabilization, set you up with resources back at home. And it turned a lot of things around. I came back out of that. I don't really want to go into detail about that there because it was intense. And hey, Dave Strother, if you ever hear this, I love you, man. Thanks. Appreciate you. He was the counselor who unfortunately had to put up with my bullshit. So feel sorry for him for having to deal with me, but he's a good man. He's still practicing in Kansas City and still working with vets and still saving lives. Back to my unit, and I was able to take active participation again, take control of myself, take control of my career, get really into it, help other soldiers. All this time, I was fighting med boards every time I turned around. I was fighting profiles every time I turned around. I don't know how many times I passed functional capacity evaluations to show that I could physically do the job. I don't know how many times I passed mental health screenings, even when I was deep in a pit, to prove that I could still do the job. they started talking medical separation when I was in the hospital before I even had my first surgery, before a surgeon had even looked at me. Then that back in 2009, they were trying to talk medical separation. So everything I did, every time I turned around, that was getting shoved in my face.
I remember this time frame, and I was dealing with something actually relatively similar right around the same time as you were. And I remember sharing tears and frustration with you, and it was very real. And I was so mad, like personally, and just like, this is a soldier. Like, I want this soldier in my unit. I tried to recruit you a couple of times to my units. You don't want to go play in Wisconsin. But this is
Do you know how cold it is up there?
I'm fully aware of how
No,
cold.
I'm kidding.
No, but this is a real soldier team. This is somebody you want on your team. And there was this time where the Army got in this vicious cycle of trying to find a reason to get rid of like folks who had been there and done that. And full disclosure,
You know what the real kick in the teeth was? Is they were trying to push me out on medical and for behavioral health while asking me to go give talks about suicide prevention and seeking help for behavioral health. And I did. I went and I talked to troops, and I did use that example. I was like, look, I was in a bad place. I was in a dark place. I went and got help, and I'm still here. Because at that time, I was like, look, I did all the right things. And the thing is you got to fight for it, and you got to push for it, because they will try to push you out, because they tried to push me out. But I am still here.
Yeah, to empathize, I never lied on my PHAs. So yeah, I got diagnosed with PTSD in like 05, went through CBT, came out, pretty clean, not like squeaky clean, like rusty clean.
And scar tissue never goes away.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
going to flare up every now and again and hurt, but it does the job.
But I would tell every year on the thing, yes, I was diagnosed with PTSD. Yes, I took medicine or whatnot. And then one year out of the blue, I get a letter that I'm not allowed to have firearms.
Yeah.
And I flipped out because I was working as a police officer full time. I was only part-time at that point in the Army. And I flipped out. I'm like, are you guys freaking serious? You're going to take my livelihood away from me. Like I work with victims of serious crimes right now. Now I've always had a knack for fighting the Army, and it was about 3 days before I had that piece of paper pulled. And you didn't have the same luck as me fighting the Army at times. But
ultimately it caught up with me. But working in a medical battalion, I was able to muster some resources every time I found a profile in my record that was by a doctor I didn't know, that had never seen my records, had never spoken to me, had never even talked to my commander, just threw a profile into my record. I was able to get it cleared and pulled, but ultimately it caught up with me because I hit a point where instead of being command referred for help, which was what happened the first time, I asked for some more help. And after a few years of reassuring soldiers, all you got to do, ask for help, you'll get the help that you need. Ask for it, you'll get the help that you need. And when I asked for the help that I needed, and emphasized that it was dealing with a different issue unrelated to the shooting, they called me the first day I was there and said, we're starting your med board packet, before I was even fully processed into the program. I will give my company commander lots of credit. He flipped shit. He had my back. My sergeant major had my back. Battalion commander had my back. Brigade commander had my back. I was discharged from the program, and med board process was initiated, and I couldn't clear it. I fought it. I fought for retention. Got supporting documentation from my providers. was recommended for retention all the way up through brigade, and division recommended separation. And that packet was submitted in April of 2018, and I received a retirement date August 2018, which is August 22nd, 2018 was my last day in the Army. And for those of you who don't know how med boards and separations work, for people who are fighting to get a med board with serious injuries, they want to get out. They're doing everything they can to hurry the process along. It can average 18 months to 3 years. I was fighting to stay in and 90 days. And I think a lot of that is because someone had been trying to separate those of us involved in the shooting from the day of the shooting on. I can't prove that, but we're all out.
Yeah.
All of us are out now.
I've had the way you and your peers in that cohort have been treated from the get-go. Like you said earlier, that was right in the middle of the global war on terror. This was a terrorist event. You absolutely not only deserve decoration, but acknowledgement as wounded warriors, like right off the bat. In our many conversations over the year, I've never been able to grasp it. And I'll stand up to anybody any day of the week and have that argument. But, at the end of the day, I remember when you got put out, and I remember just being ashamed. I mean, like, Army, great. You just lost an amazing talent. Now she's going to go set the world on fire and you don't get any of that love. Like, way to go, idiot. So
I remember calling you when I got my orders. It's like, I'm going to email you something. Please tell me I'm reading this wrong. Please, for the love of Christ, tell me I am reading this wrong.
Dumb.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, and there was times that I worried for you as long as I've known you, and that was a time where I'm like, man, that had to have hurt too, because it's like taking some salt and just rubbing it in, right in the wound. Like, hey, thanks for advocating for. And by the way, you've saved a lot of lives over your service, and I won't let you deny it, because you've been actively involved with suicide interventions. You've been actively involved with helping people pursue and normalize the ability to say when things aren't okay and get treatment. And in a lot of cases nowadays, I've had people who have been treated, enrolled, and served. But the unfairness of that effort that you put in, and then they took your career from you early. It's never
Their
sad.
loss.
Yeah, it is their loss. But I told them, idiots, because look who gets you now. Now you're going to be a doctor, a doctor. So,
well, my kiddo got me.
Which, okay.
That's the good that came out of it is my kiddo got me.
Next question then, Joy, if you don't mind. So when I deal with people who are actively thinking about committing suicide, actively thinking about killing themselves, it almost, and not even just people who are suicidal, but people who are living just criminal lives and stuff. A lot of times they're in that world, in that place, because they just can't see anything that smells or tastes or looks like hope. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. But you've told a story. To me, it's a very resilient story, because I know you and I've seen you all the way through it, and you've been a superstar for every moment, even when you didn't think you were. And but tell us about hope. Tell us about hope from a wounded warrior. Tell us about hope from a victim of trauma who's betrayed by a system. How the heck do you get through all that and find air to breathe on the other side?
It's a lot of little pieces, right? Because you can't hear anything. You can't see anything. You can't feel anything. Like you said, everything just reeks, and it reeks of recrimination. It reeks of hopelessness. It reeks of misplaced responsibility. It reeks of, this is my fault. I did something. Somehow, somewhere along the way, I did something to put myself in this position. I should have done something different. You know, you get someone who values loyalty and honesty sitting there going, should I have been a better liar? And the cognitive dissonance that comes with that is very difficult to deal with. And then you get these thoughts that just play in the back of your head, and it's like having a neighbor that won't turn the damn radio off. And it doesn't matter what you do, you can kind of get involved in something to the point where you can drown it out, but it never shuts up, you know. And hope comes in pieces. You go through a program, Project Odyssey, with the Wounded Warrior Project. I never attended, but I've heard a lot of great things from folks that it touched. It's not perfect for everybody. But it's great for the ones that it helped, and maybe something sticks there. Or you go to a peer support group. There's a peer group here in Des Moines that up until COVID, I attended religiously from their very first meeting, really up until COVID shut everything down. And I had to stay home with my kiddo and for, you know, our own health and safety. And it's been difficult to attend meetings again, just because we've got a lot of family responsibilities. And you know, as much as I love those assholes, if it's go to the meeting or go to my daughter's band concert, well, the band concert's going to win every single time, hands down, no questions. But you pick up a little bit there. You know, it's like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who has these thoughts, and I'm not the only one who feels these feelings. And they still get up. They still go out and do stuff. So maybe I can too. I attended a program in Arizona, in Sonora, Arizona, called Warrior Path through the Boulder Crest Foundation. And it's a 1-week retreat that takes a good long look at kind of what you're holding on to and why. It's not so much traditional therapy as it is, and it's not like pep talk stuff. It's a lot of it's tools, and you get connected with a group of folks who go through it with you. So you hear each other's stories, and then part of the program is follow-ups, weekly follow-ups, and then monthly follow-ups with that same group of folks. They become your guide. I still talk to them. We're still friends. I still reach out to them when there's a problem. I still reach out to them when it's like, you know, hey guys, do you remember that thing we talked about when we were walking around after class? I found this and it reminded me of it. So we share a laugh together. And one of the big things is on the last day, we each wrote letters to each other and turned them into the staff. And then they compiled it and mailed it to us. So I've got this letter sitting here of stuff folks wrote back in 2018, because I went 2 months after I got out. So it was still raw with me, really raw. And that's something I can pull out anytime and look at. It's not any one thing. You know, people look for, and I did it too. You look for the unicorn, right? You look for that one button, that one magic pill or therapy or treatment or group or program that's going to fix it. It doesn't exist, guys. It's not there. But that's because nobody can give it to you. You already have it. You already have it. You just need to figure out what it looks like and what it is. And, you know, just like being out in the field when all your shit's broken, maybe it's a screw from over here, a rock from over here, some duct tape, bubble gum, and a fucking prayer. And you can make something go. You just need to find all the pieces and put it together so you can get a little bit from everything else. And you just have to keep assembling those pieces.
I think what you just said is
it's
like
there. That's what hope looks like.
I think you just said the tagline for the episode. I'm trying to remember this. Shoelace, bubble gum, a fucking thing from over here. You put it all together. Hell yeah.
But seriously though, it's like you already, no one knows you better than yourself, right? But you get lost in that noise. You get lost in, like you said, that stench of everything sucks and everything's hopeless and there's no way out of it because you are drowning in it. And it is really hard for the people that are very close to you, your loved ones, your family, even your best friends, to help pull you out of that, because drowning people drown other people because you're so desperate. And hurt people hurt people. When you're hurt, you lash out because you don't know what to do. So that's how you end up isolated. That's how you end up alienating someone else. It takes someone from the outside. Someone like yourself doing these podcasts, someone like the staff at Boulder Crest or the folks who run the Project Odyssey, or, right now I belong to a group at a nonprofit organization at Wildwood Hills Ranch, which is just a little bit south of me in St. Charles, Iowa. The guy who runs the program, Mr. Lynn, he's a veteran, and it's a veterans equestrian program. It's not traditional equine therapy, but what we do is we get together once a week on Fridays and we learn how to ride. He gives riding lessons to us. He's a crusty old dude, and we do drill. We have a performance that we put together that we do at county fairs and like the Iowa Horse Fair, and we ride in Memorial Day parades, Veterans Day parades, the 4th of July. Sometimes local groups will request our presence, and we go through this drill together on horseback. So we are having to learn how to emotionally regulate to communicate with the animal. We've got this 1,000-pound animal that is communicating with us. We get connected with that, and we get connected with each other. That one has spoken to me very, very powerfully. And, I want to give a shout out to them because that's no cost to the vets.
What's the name
we
of
don't
them
pay
again?
for our Wildwood Hills Ranch sponsors it, and it's the Veterans Equestrian drill team. They also do a youth drill team, and they do a lot of camps and programs for at-risk youth in the area. And I'll get you the link. They're fantastic. I love those guys so much, and I've made some great friends with them. We check up on each other when stuff goes wrong. We get together and help out after storms to help clear out, people's yards or ranches when there's a problem. I mean, that's what it's about, is you got to reach for somebody outside of your immediate circle who isn't living in the sewer with you. You got to get someone with an outside perspective to show you that you already know where you need to go. You just can't see it. It's like stuck in a burning building. You can't see your way out because of the smoke. And you just got to, but you already know where the door is. Just got to take a deep breath and find it. That's what hope is figuring out how to take that deep breath and find it. It's listening to that voice that tells you that this shit sucks, but there's a way out.
I don't think I've ever heard hope described better. Getting involved in something. I do the VFW. I'm a chaplain. I was going to pipe this in there. I do like to put shots out to the wellness command post north of us here, much like the veterans. I will get the word right when I put the cast out here, but they do the same thing. They actually bring in broken animals, and the riders and the horses break themselves together. And there's something very interesting about how veterans who have been through there and build that bond with an animal, like you just said, it's a big deal. And they also do at-risk youth and interventions like that. Man, I wish that was around when I was an at-risk youth. I'd have graduated high school.
On the other hand, if I had that before I enlisted, I might never have enlisted.
True. That is the best accurate.
Who knows?
I think you covered parts of the last question, but the last question, from Joy to whoever's listening who is feeling hopeless and who has been through that trauma and maybe helps other people, because I think somebody that you can speak to uniquely, Joy, is somebody who invests time and effort and energy in other people, while all at the same time having your own pain. What do you say to that person? What's your advice? And you're allowed to give advice now because you're almost a double doctor. So I'm going to get you a shirt that says Dr. Doc, by the way, before you finish it. Okay, keep going.
I love it. I'll wear it to graduation. You damn well better be there.
All right. Oh, I will be there. Yeah.
I would say that your pain is real. You spend a lot of time dealing with the pain of others, and it's easy to look and be like, man, what do I have to complain about? My shit doesn't stink as bad as that person's, but your pain is real and your pain is valid. And it doesn't matter whether or not anyone else believes that you've been through enough to feel what you feel. Whatever you feel is correct because it's what you feel. and it is valid. We can't choose how we feel about things. We don't control our emotions. That is not something we control. What we can control is what we do with it. We can't choose our feelings. We can choose our actions. So don't discount your pain. Don't deny it. Don't question your right to feel the way that you feel just because you think someone else has been through more than you. Someone else hasn't been through what you have been through. Your pain is unique to you, and it deserves respect. And you deserve the respect of acknowledging your pain and choosing what to do with it. And you can, taking that first step is going to be the hardest thing you have ever done. And it is terrifying. And it is okay. It's okay to be afraid. It's all right to be afraid of letting go of the pain that has been the only thing you've known for maybe your entire life, or maybe your entire adult life. Maybe the pain is fueling the rage that keeps getting you up in the morning. You have no idea what you're going to do without it. But I promise you there is something else, and it is okay to learn how to start the day feeling good instead of starting the day feeling like crap. It's okay to turn your pain into something else. It's okay to honor your pain by retiring it. It's never going to go away. Nothing ever goes away. You get a cut, you get a scar. That's just the way it is. But let the cut heal. Don't keep picking it open and keep it infected. Let it heal. Let it scar. Let it remind you of what you went through, and wear it as a badge of courage, because you fucking fought it and you survived and you are here. That's what I'd say.
Well, and ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I hereby retire this entire show because
No.
no, yeah, I can listen to what a lot of learned people say about things, but then people who have experiential learning, it bumps it up to 11. Joy, you have stories beyond what we've talked to tonight, and you are a living testament to courage and care, both. Like, you are courageous and you care, and you're a good friend. And you've been there for me when I'm whining about little stuff over the years that seemed like big stuff to me.
I could say the same thing. I learned a lot from you. Like I said, back when I was a little private as your darn, I learned a lot about leadership. I learned a lot about how to take care of the people around you, which helps you take care of yourself. I didn't learn the self-care part very well, but I'm a little slow sometimes. Takes me a couple stabs at it, but I've always looked up to your leadership, and I'm grateful and I'm honored that you asked me to come on here and have this conversation.
Yeah, I had to come up with a list. I had to come up with a list of 12 heroes, Joy, for my life, which I've been blessed to have more than 12 heroes that I've been around and served with and have experienced life with. But yours always sticks out to me just because you're so inspiring to me. You inspire me. Like, every moment that I want to just be, just call it in, cash it in, be like, I don't want to work so hard. I think to what you would do. And like, you're a worker, and everything you do is continuously for the benefit of others. Even when I was trying to just get you to just make some profit off stuff, you're like, I would like to make less profit. Who wants less profit, Joy? But I kid about that. I mean, there's lots of good people in the world, but thank you for joining us. And yeah, you rock. Thanks for taking time out to talk. I hope we have the chance to affect somebody. And another thing I promise you, if you want to reach out to me after seeing this episode and you'd like the chance to connect with Joy to talk through things, I can facilitate that ask. So no promises, because there's a lot of weirdos out there.
Well, I second that, but listen, reach out to anywhere you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be someone you know. And if you want to reach out to someone you've never talked to before, there's groups out there, there's services out there. There are people out there. Reach out and ask for the help because it is totally worth it. You are totally worth it. And I really, really hope everyone can realize that.
Well, on that note, Doc, the next time I see you should be with you walking across the stage. And when you get your clinical doctoral, do you get like a big fancy goofy hood or like funky
Yeah.
sleeves? Like you get to dress up
Yeah,
all crazy?
You
Good.
get the fancy hood and then the permission to sit down and take the terrifying 4-hour certification exam.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. You finished school. Now go take a 4-hour test that's going to determine whether or not you actually learned anything.
Oh,
No,
geez.
it's good. It'll be good.
No, you'll smoke.
I am
smoke
looking
it.
forward to it. 2027 can't come soon enough.
Oh, those are long programs. All right. Well, Joy, thanks again for your time. Have a good night.
Hey,
Be
thanks,
safe.
Mike. Good to see you. Thank you.
Revelry for mornings that will never come. All I see are false hopes and your setting sun.